What do you say after that? Just hurt. But hey, I'm up for a kebab.
Ball away under pressure, but it's picked up by Archer again. He tries to crash through the pack. He goes. He got through Maxwell, and he has a flying shot at Miles. And then it's a magnificent Glenn Archer goal. 2 in a minute to the man who the shimmer.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are. Great times, unprecedented times. Where else would you rather be right now than listening to Marnie Cohen and Josh talk about our lovely football club, the North Melbourne Football Club? Hello, Marnie. Thank you. You've come on after a few awful games this year. It seems to be a trend.
No, this is the first time I've been on this year where we've actually had
Really
a really bad result. I was on after the Melbourne game and I think the Carlton game as well and the Port game. So this is actually
Really? I thought we ranted before about something.
maybe in the mid-season review.
Yeah, anytime over the last 3 years, who knows?
We've
It all
shared a
just
lot of
molds into
rants
one.
over the journey, Josh.
Yeah, we have, and there'll be many more from the trajectory we're on right now, which we're going to dive into. What a great segue that is. So we've got all your fan questions, new format, which is cool. Voice messages are so last financial year. This financial year, we're into getting the fans' questions and more thoughts read out on the pod, which is good. So we're going to try and structure it around the questions, and we'll see how we go. So what we might do first off, and I don't really have to read the scoreline out to anybody. We lost by a lot. You were there, Marnie. Give me your thoughts just being in the ground. What was maybe your thoughts going into it, and paint me a little word picture of what it ended up like and what was the atmosphere like, and just to sum it up for me.
I feel like the journey of a football fan from week to week is the same. You have the result on the weekend, which for most North fans has been pretty grim over the past at least 5 or 6 weeks. You process it, you digest it, you kind of go through the early parts of the week, a little bit upset, but you kind of forget about it. And then particularly when home games are coming up, like in Melbourne, by a Thursday, Friday, I'm pumped and I'm yep, we're going to win this. Let's go. I don't know if I went in last night thinking we'd win necessarily, but I definitely didn't expect what unfolded at Marvel, unfortunately. It was a massacre from the word go. And it was frustrating because we actually kicked, I think it was 2 of the first 3 goals.
Yeah, we were ahead 10 minutes into the quarter, and we were like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, and I understand that by quarter time Geelong's inaccuracy probably flattered us. But it was just a pretty sorry, sad tale as the game went on. But hey, I had front row seats to the Jeremy Cameron show, so lucky me.
Wow. Well, look, I was there when Buddy kicked 13. I was right up against the fence as well in the pocket that he kicked his 13th from. So welcome to my life. I still haven't got over that, and that was about 15 years ago, I think. So this one's going to live with you for a very, very long time. How was it in the ground after the game? Was there hostility? How was the fan sort of reaction in ground? Because we know that the fans that turn up can be a lot different than what the internet sometimes suggests. So what was it like in the stadium from a fan's perspective?
I was talking to someone this morning and I found it really interesting. So Finbar kicked our last goal of the game, but with the exception of that goal, the fans were very, very vocal, North fans, cheering every goal quite passionately. Apologies to anyone who saw me celebrating Jack Darling's goal. I think I was the only person dancing to Hey Baby when we're cutting the margin back to 110 points or whatever it was.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was surrounded by Geelong fans mostly. So that was obviously not ideal. They were pretty good though. For the most part, they were just not too much lip. They were just cheering their side. I didn't see too many North fans at the end of the game. I saw one lovely gentleman at halftime. We had a bit of a chat. And by that point, I think we were all just kind of head in hand sort of thing. I think I personally left just feeling really empty, and I didn't sleep because I just sort of lay there and thought, and it's a privileged position to be in, to talk about my feelings on a YouTube channel or to come here and have a chat with you about it. But I definitely, for the first time in a long time, had this kind of wash of anxiety over me, thinking, what on earth am I going to talk about? And what is the right way to approach this loss, because I think everyone's feeling quite different, but I think very few people would be feeling positive
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
last night. And I think that's probably the first time maybe this season where none of us have, with the exception of probably Good Friday, but at this point in the season where none of us are actually feeling good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. It's interesting with this one because, you know, people will differ on this, and I've said this a lot, and we've differed on this a little bit. Is like, you know, the mentality going into the game should be the same, but I think certain results matter and certain results don't. You know, if it was 10 goals, I feel like it's the same result, but we wouldn't have been as angry. And it's fair enough, completely fair enough to be angry at the way we performed because it was genuinely, everyone was a passenger basically. Like there was nothing from a tactics perspective that stood out at all. But it's the Cats, and I feel like, and we spoke about this really briefly before we started recording, if we do win next week, and I know it feels like that's impossible, and should we be favourites? Absolutely not. But if we do beat the Saints, and we've got the Tigers in a couple of weeks, say we got 2 of our last 4, like you pointed out before, the fans' reaction is sort of week by week, and I don't think if say we did beat the Saints and say we did beat Richmond, which can happen. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it can. I don't think we'll care about this anymore. And it doesn't mean we excuse what we've just seen. And now the next 7 days after the game is us reflecting and understanding and getting rid of the anger and the frustration. But if we do beat the Saints and beat the Tigers and we end winning 2 of the last 4, I don't think we're going to care about a 100-point loss to Geelong because it's Geelong and they always beat us. And that's not a team that's going to affect our season. You know, if you told me 2 months ago Geelong was going to smash us, I'd be like, yeah, I know. You know, I felt like that against the Hawks, and it doesn't mean it's good enough, and it doesn't mean it's acceptable, but there is still stuff to salvage from the year that can make us have a much better year. And we'll get into this. And I'm not trying to just find positives. I know a lot of people think I do. I've flipped from the negative guy to the positive guy this season, which is really, really strange. But if we do perform and beat 2 of the last 4 teams in Richmond and the Saints, I don't think we're going to care about this loss. And I think that's how my mentality has been for the last month. I said Hawthorn and Geelong are the 2 games we're going to get smashed in for the rest of the year because we always do. Until we improve, we're not fixing that up. And the rest of the games, let's see how we go. And even though I feel awful, and I actually had a similar feeling to you, I woke up this morning at 7 a.m. and I genuinely couldn't sleep because I was like, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to say on the pod, and I'm thinking about what we're going to do, and are we ever going to get better, you know? And then the more rational side of me goes, well, yeah, we're playing a team next week that I think we can beat. We've shown we can be competitive. I reckon we get Larky back. I reckon we get Wardlaw back. Can we make something of it? So look, interesting to try and get your head around all of this. There's people who do speak about it on the internet and have to give the people who listen some sort of therapy. But we'll get into a couple of the questions here, and we can start discussing just so the pod doesn't take too long because it's going to get very emotional. A statement, and then we're going to get into a question. The first one here is, and I apologize if I butcher any names here, but this gentleman has messaged me a few times. We've chatted a little bit. Theodoros Alexiadis from Greece, I believe, a passionate fan over there. He's messaged me before. It's getting tougher and tougher. Trading table errors, example, Cadman, coaching errors, Shaw, Noble. And the question now is, can my old mate Alistair fix this? I now have doubts. Should we bring in the horse and start again? Very confused and disappointed fellow shinboners. My regards from Greece. Just a statement there from him. And then we've got, this is another long last name, James Andreopoulos. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Do you guys honestly think this group can take us to a serious finals tilt? I'm worried our list has been so poorly managed that this might be the rebuild before the rebuild. What are your thoughts? So, Marnie, do you think this group, not everybody, but the core group we've got, can take us to the finals?
Yes. We're obviously missing some really important pillars. That's no surprise. But yeah, absolutely. There's so much talent in there. And if we can find a way to bring the best out of them and to find the right mix that all complement each other. And then once you get the mix right, it's about finding a way to keep them together consistently week in, week out. I mean, it's no surprise that between Carlton games this year, we were able to strike a really good run of form because majority of the players in that side were the same from week to week to week. And I
Yeah.
don't think that is valued enough amongst supporters. We are so desperate to make 5, 6, 7 changes on a week to week basis. And at this
Yeah.
point in the season, yes, it needs to be done. We need to try things. There's plenty of players out of contract. They need to have a shot. We've had a lot of injuries over the past 5 weeks, and a lot of luck does come into it. Like Geelong last night had majority of their best players available and fit and ready. But having a core 23, and that's obviously not possible, but say having a core 16 to 18 that play every single week, there's beauty in that. And there's beauty in creating chemistry and synergy amongst the players out there. So long story, yes, to answer the question in a short form, I think it's about A, finding the right mix, and then B, trying to find a way to keep them all together on the park as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree as well. There's more than enough talent. David King spoke about this on the show, whatever show they do after the game. It's sort of just the recap show, and it's not a talent issue. It's absolutely not a talent issue. And you know, when you sort of get rid of a bit of the emotion, how we're feeling, I think everyone and every North fan knows the talent we've got. It's a system issue, and when it's clicked this year, it's looked good, and when it hasn't, it's looked bad. But the times it has clicked has been so much more frequent this year than last year. And that's why I think there is the progression. It's not the progression we want. It's not maybe the progression we need this year, but it is there. And I think the thing for me this year has been the floor has been raised for North a little bit, where a lot of the players last year who were just complete passengers. I know it's hard to understand this after this one game, but I'm looking at a season as a whole. There's a lot of players who the bottom part of our 23 every week is a lot more strong. The thing I think is going on this year is for some reason, Sheasel, even like he hasn't even kicked 40 goals this year. I know he's been out for a little bit, but Wardlaw's not there. LDU hasn't been firing. The guys who were dragging us anywhere near wins last year haven't been great. But the reason that we have been in games is because those bottom 10 players haven't been as lackadaisical as they were last year. And I do think that gives us a better foundation. Once these guys, these talented guys at the top of our list, do get back to the form that because it's a matter of time. It's not if they ever get back to it, they will. That will be the time when I think we can try and compete. So, no, I do agree with you there. Matt Cooper says, with these last few weeks being poor, what are you both looking for to try and salvage something from this season? Are the players you think should go? Who are the players that you think should go? Or is there a game plan shake-up? So I've sort of answered that a little bit with if we beat the Saints and we beat the Tigers, I don't think we care about this sort of stuff. I want to win those 2 games, and I'm not too fussed outside of that. But do you differ on that? What do you want to see for the rest of the year? Is it a shake-up in personnel? Is it a shake-up in game plan? What do you reckon?
We definitely have to beat at least one of, if not both, St Kilda and Richmond. Like, it's a non-negotiable.
Definitely has to be at least one, yes.
Take the game on. Like, we're so slow and we are just so hesitant and we don't back ourselves in. And, you know, there are a couple of passages of play last night where we just took risks and, like, yeah, they didn't pay off, but at least we were trying to do something and make something of what's out there. And, like, what we're doing is not working right now, evidently. So I don't know what the answer is. Bring back a little bit of fast-moving, chaotic football. Like, our skills are atrocious.
Yeah.
And so trying to play this centimetre perfect football is going to backfire 9 times out of 10. Bring a little bit of chaos back into the game, a bit of pace, a bit of excitement. That's what I would be doing. We look our most dangerous when we are hard on the attack. And the reason being is because our defense is so poor. So rather than trying to defend the ball, which we do really badly, just ride out the rest of the year and try and play a little bit of high tempo, high pace footy. If it backfires, it backfires. The defense is rubbish regardless. And that's not the actual defense itself. It's across the board.
It's defending
Our
the ground.
defensive blueprint is horrific, and it has been for most of the season. So we just need to try and get the jump on our opponents if we can. I wouldn't mind seeing And I don't know if his papers are already stamped. I wouldn't mind seeing Geordie Payne before the end of the season. It looks to me the writing's on the wall. If they haven't selected him at this point, I can't see him being selected and being there next year, if I'm completely honest. But I think he's probably the only other player at this point that I would be pushing to try at senior level. But otherwise, I don't know.
What can you really do? Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Look, there's something out of that sort of builds off and expands off that. And I'm gonna dart around a little bit more than we normally would because it's more a discussion about the club this episode. But, let's start in the midfield a little bit here because it sort of leads on from that. Brett Chard says, when we are getting outworked and beaten by big bodies at centre bounce, why don't we send PC or Bull in for a few CBAs? Sheasley's injured. The ankle he did late last year has hampered him this year. Interesting. And the other one that I thought was interesting is Daniel Hammond was at the game tonight, stayed to the end, was a hard watch. What concerns me is our lack of size, especially in the midfield and defence. It was men versus boys stuff tonight. As a club, we need a big-bodied midfielder, someone similar to a Connor Nash at Hawthorn, like a defensive mid. Hopefully, George Wardle can fill that role, but is still only 183 centimetres. Powell, Simpkin, Parker are too similar. Only LDU has the breakaway speed. Smith and Holmes had their way with us tonight. So the reason I wanted to point out those questions in particular was that something that, and it's not just trying to say like I did say this sort of stuff because I don't want to be that sort of person. It's not about me saying it. There's a lot of fans, and we were vocal on the pod about Josh Smiley last year in the draft. He was someone that I would have loved to get because we are missing that big type midfielder, and not necessarily him exactly as a player, but a body in there that is big and intimidating. And the other point is something that I got a lot of heat for earlier in the year when a lot of Tom Powell discussion was coming up. And it's not just about Tom Powell, but the midfield as a whole. It is the most one-dimensional midfield. It went outside of LDU, I think. Parker brings really good stuff, but especially outside of that, there's one gear. Wardlaw does shift that a little bit. And I'm still shocked we don't see McKercher and O'Sullivan in there at all, really. Maybe one or two here and there, but it's nowhere near consistent enough. This is the most one-paced midfield that's meant to be top picks. A guy like a Tom Powell has had a lot of, like 3 or 4 weeks now to step up and be top 2 midfielders on the ground for us. And he just hasn't been able to do it. I really think we're seeing the peak of Tom Powell here. I think he's a good player and he's solid at everything, but I don't know if he's a game changer. I wrote before the game, Parker, this is the night I need him to step up. I think he battled his heart out. I think it was very similar to Simpkins' performance last week, but he got 12 turnovers in the game. And that is just being a victim of being the one that's actually caring, probably. But that was the time I needed him to show a little bit of his leadership. LDU, you could have been the best mid on the park last night if he wanted to be. On his day, he can be one of the best midfielders in this league, and he hasn't stepped up this year. It's been such a flat year. So I'm just baffled with this. With our midfield, Marnie, sorry to rant for so long here, but hey, I'm a North fan at the end of the day, and this is my thing. How do you feel about this midfield? Because the midfield's meant to be our thing. We're meant to be a stoppage-based team. We're meant to try and score from stoppage. And it looks so flat, so boring, and so one-paced. What would you do? And do you feel the same about this midfield group?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about the clearances for me because Geelong did beat us in the middle of the ground on paper, yes, but we actually somewhat evened out the clearances in various stages of the game. It's the possession. Like, we just turn it over.
It's how we clear it.
The amount of times we just fumbled the ball, like winning the clearance itself, even without Sherry. Last week, we just roved to Grundy. And this week, I thought Bryn Teagle fought pretty hard. And actually
doing everything he
quite
can.
liked his game, to be honest. I know it's only Reece Stanley he came up against, and it's no disrespect to Stanley, but he's not at the same echelon as Grundy.
No.
But it's the possession. Like, we just turn it straight over. It's fumbly. It's ugly. I like the call to put one of PC or Bull in the middle of the ground, but last night they were both pretty good up forward. Like, the forward line was starved for supply, but all the forwards I thought actually played okay. Not one goal came from a midfielder last night.
Yeah. In modern day footy, that could be criminal.
And on the big-bodied midfielder, and I know I can just see people's eyes rolling at the back of their head when I say this. We had one last year, and we didn't play him. You don't tell me that a tackling machine at 100 and almost 90 centimetres in Hugh Greenwood wouldn't have made some difference to this midfield this year.
It is the archetype of player that we do miss. It's a hard one with Hugh. We all love Hugh. I don't disagree with the archetype of play you're trying to point out. Like, I genuinely thought to myself, imagine if Jed Anderson was in that midfield. Like just a big, like it's true though, like a big, like just wants to tackle you and rip you to the ground. I know Cunnington's a different echelon than those players, but just the tough guy who will stand up. And that's what I wanted Parker to be. I think that's, I know he's not that exact archetype of player, but it's time for that leadership to be shown in action. And he tried his heart out. I'm not trying to blame Parker for it at all, but who in that midfield do you want to? Are you disappointed in stepping up? Like for me in Powell and LDU, I think I just can't believe how flat they are when they're right now meant to be the two mids that are the best for us playing in those CBAs all the time. Simpkin, we've had so many discussions about Simpkin. I think last week was a really good game by him. I know there was a lot of turnovers, similar to Parker's game last night. Who are you looking at to step up? Who hasn't done that for you?
All of them. I guess, in their own way. LDU is probably the one.
Yeah.
And I still think he's been the best of the lot. Like, his moments of brilliance are brilliant. Probably all of them. And I feel for Will Phillips because physically he's just not big enough.
Yeah, I know. He's that guy, but he's just not big enough, is he? Yeah.
The intent is great.
If he was 190 centimetres, he'd be
awesome.
playing in this midfield every week, yeah.
The only one who really is coming through that could be that guy is Luke Urquhart, but
he's a while away, I think.
It's also
hasn't
just
even stood out in the twos that much.
He's had injury throughout
one
the
player
year,
doesn't change the problems we've got.
Exactly.
Yeah, true, yeah.
If there's a way to bring that out of Zane Dersma, awesome. Thought he was pretty ordinary last night. And I'm not... I was
going to ask your opinion on him.
Well, I'm not jumping on the hysteria bandwagon with Zane Dersma. No. I'll just say that right now. I think there is a lesson to be learnt with patience, and I think we have to...
What role do you want him to play, Marnie? Where do you see him?
Ideally, like forward of the ball. I understand like him turning into like a Mason Wood type player and like playing on the wing and like that high half forward role, but kind of looks far off it for now. Like there's just no one in that midfield is proactive. I think that's probably something I noticed last night is when the ball was in a contest or, say a player was kicking the ball, like a North player was kicking it to an opponent who appeared free at the time. There was no draw to the ball. We just stood there and waited for it to fall in our lap. So we leave ourselves vulnerable for Geelong to intercept or for the turnover. Like, it's like we're not very good defensively across the ground, but then there's just no willingness to attack the footy and there's no hunger to win the football. Like we don't want to win our own ball. And Geelong, when they were over 100 points up late in the fourth quarter, were tackling as if the game was in the balance. Like why are they hungrier for the ball than us? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's even some occasions last night, I felt like we won the clearance pretty well, and then the next disposal would just be the worst thing you'll ever see, and then it just goes straight back over. And once it's out, we can't defend that ground at all. It's still like the ball's a magnet, and everyone's just a bit of metal that just goes straight towards it, and there's no awareness for their surroundings. So, I mean, look, it's all coaching and that sort of stuff. And look, this can lead into potentially our next question. Adam O'Keefe, bless you both for still showing up tomorrow, even despite the chaos. Thank you, Adam, for that. It is hard, my friend. It is very hard. My question, if you could change one thing about the club in the off-season to make the biggest impact on field, what would it be? Now, this is a big question. If you want a second to think, I do have one. And it's actually something you pointed out, Marnie, early in the year. I think Lee Adams is our midfield coach, and I want a new midfield coach in there. I need someone has created a gun midfield before. We've got so much talent in that midfield. Clarkson, you can say he's not it anymore or whatever. He still has been a great coach. He's still got enough knowledge to get this club up the ladder. It might not be a grand final, might not even be in the finals, but he's got enough enough knowledge there to get us up the ladder. The midfield is the biggest disappointment this year. Lee Adams, his time at the club, he's been thrown around all over the place. I'm sure he does everything he possibly can for this football club to succeed. But the midfield cannot be performing like this and your job be safe. I think that is the biggest thing for me. I think a midfield coach has to be the biggest change for me to get on-field performances to be better next year.
Yeah, I would probably clear out all the assistants bar Michael Barlow is probably the change I would make.
Yeah.
I don't believe that sacking Clarko is the answer.
No, absolutely not.
At the end of this year, it'll be the first time since 2017-18 that we've had the same coach in charge for two full consecutive seasons. The club needs a bit of stability and continuity. Yeah. And I don't think it does anyone any good if he's sacked. So that's not the move I would be making. I think the support around him needs to be changed. I worry that because a lot of our soft cap is paying Clarko's salary, so who we can actually lure in, it's a hard sell at the moment. Like the next month, we need to turn the club around on field and prove to potential players coming through the door or potential coaches or support staff that like this club actually has potential to improve and move up the ladder. I think that's got to be the biggest thing. I know the question was about off field, but in order for us to successfully transform the support off field, we need to show that there's something to work with, because I think right now on the back of last night's game, it's a bloody hard sell to bring anyone over. So that would probably be the change I would be looking to make. And it's no disrespect to any of the guys in there now. I think what they've been able to do and what they've tried to do has been admirable, but it clearly hasn't worked. So I think we definitely need to make those changes. I think Michael Barlow should stay because I think he'll be a significant part. I hope he's a significant part of this club in the future, in the not too distant future. So he's probably one I'd try to keep. And then I think the elephant in the room is Brady Rawlings.
Yeah, that's the other one, isn't it?
And it's not to say that every single player on that list is a bust. It's not to say that at all. I think we've got a really talented core group of players. And I also understand that with a hard sell for on-field, it runs through to the list. But there's no way that we can still be in this position without his role at least being questioned at the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know, it's hard as a fan to sit there and say, we need to do this, we need to do this. But these people are employed to make those decisions, right? They should be a lot smarter than us. And then when we look back on things, how many years have we all, and I've been saying this for every year of this podcast we've done it at trade time and draft time, stop drafting the most talented player when you have that position covered already. How we haven't got more key position players in. Will Dawson is exciting. You know, that could be our key defender for the future, you know, but the lack of awareness to draft forwards and big-bodied midfielders, or even a few years ago before we got Colby and stuff, like pace in the team, we were so slow. And it just takes way too long to get these players in. And the other thing is, and you know, it's counteracting maybe my opinion on a little bit. We did trade our first round pick, which I don't really care that much about because I don't think a fresh 18-year-old is going to do anything for us in the short term to be better to where we want to go. I would rather use those things to get experience into the club. But how are we not clearly Brady Rawlings and whoever else makes those decisions, the team, thought that we were going to be a lot better than this, and that's why they thought they traded the pick. Now, Whitlock might turn out to be a fantastic key position player. I love the ambition to trade a pick, which we probably would have taken a midfielder with anyway. And with all the compromisation this year, the pick's going to drop down and down and down anyway. But because it's absolutely not going to be pick 2. But Whitlock's not even playing in the forward line in the VFL. We have a massive, massive hole. I like the thought of Finbar, but I don't know if I fully see it. And the Comben thing, which we're going to get onto in a second, stop that. There's nothing else with Darling's been great. I love Jack Darling. He's been so good playing his role and doing everything he can at 33 years old to help this club win football games. But the holes that we have, and they go and draft the same sort of players again and again and again, baffling. And us as fans who don't get paid to know football, we just watch football from our couch and from the seats in the stadium. We knew this. Cadmans and Dan Curtins, even Nick Watsons and those archetypes, we're missing them and we keep passing them. So I think you're spot on with that too. I'd say midfield coach is a must. And yeah, I was going to get onto Rawlings as well. So that's a good shout.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I love Jack Darling. Everyone knows I have been the biggest Jack Darling fan since the day he walked through this door. But there is a big issue when he, at 33 years old, with his former club still paying his bloody salary, being one of the most transformative players in this side this season. It's a big issue. He shouldn't have been he was one of our best players last night. The way he presents up the ground, he's so strong. It's awesome, but that shouldn't be the situation.
Yeah.
Here.
I agree. So another one here, and we're going to, an interesting comment that I wasn't expecting to get. Fat_Rudes on Instagram. I still don't think, this makes our year bad. I think we have improved this year. What are your thoughts? I think we all know my thoughts on this. I agree with that completely. One game, one big loss. I know we've had a couple, but this big loss against a team that we shouldn't be anywhere near doesn't take away those months that we had where we did look so much better than the year before. And this last month is going to go a long way to me knowing if that was real or is that just a thing that happened and doesn't matter anymore. But what do you think, Marnie? Do you still think we've improved? And do you think this loss means the whole season just doesn't mean anything anymore? Are you feeling that way or are you more composed?
No. I don't think that the whole season's a fail on the back of the one loss. I mean, you look at Sydney last year, right? They made the grand final and they lost by over 100 points to Port at some point in the year. But my biggest issue with this season, and it has been my biggest issue with North for quite some time, is why does it take losses of this magnitude to pull a response out of us? Why did it take the loss on Good Friday to pull out a response?
Kick us into gear. Yeah.
Because I feel like it almost resets the expectation. Like when we played Hawthorn a few weeks ago, pumped, right? Didn't even get off the plane. So then 5 days later, and I know we had a lot of injuries on the back of that Hawthorn game, but 5 days later to go into the game against the Dogs, coming off the Carlton game, we should have been looking at the game against the Dogs and thinking, hey, we're a real chance here, and not, I hope we're competitive and stick within 6 goals of them. And then that game against the Ds, we absolutely could have won that game. We probably should have won that game, to be honest, and not on the day, but we definitely are good enough to match it with them, no doubt. But because of the performances from the 2 weeks prior, the expectation is reset. Yeah. And I think mentally we're setting ourselves back. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that, and I know as a fan base we're starved of success, right? It's been very difficult for quite some time now being a North supporter. But celebrating performances against Fremantle, as an example, where we didn't win the game, but it was a pretty epic contest, and being happier with a performance like that than the win we got against West Coast the week before, ludicrous. Any team that is fighting for a position in the top 8 or in the top 4, obviously you need performances like we had against Fremantle, but you've got to bank wins, even if they're ugly, to be able to actually progress up the ladder and put yourself in a frame to play finals or top 4 or whatever. So I think that mindset has to really change as well. Again, it comes back to the resetting of the expectation. Like if we only lost that game, as you said, by 30, 40 points, would we have been satisfied because it was Geelong? Like, got to start changing that mindset because that too will set us back, I think. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but while I don't think this season is a complete write-off if, we go on and have a really strong month to finish off the year, but I don't think we can sweep performances like this under the rug either, because I think they're doing more damage for us mentally than we're probably acknowledging.
For sure. One thing with the game plan last night, or even just team selection in general, a couple of questions here from Christo Sapost. I'm so sorry. That Instagram name is very hard to read. Why keep Chom Ford? He's our best defender and rarely any entry. Made no sense. And then Brooke Louise, 17. Why did it take Clarko 3 quarters to put Chom back? These are the sort of things that I really get frustrated with. You've got a player in Charlie Comben who hasn't done much as a forward for this club, went back and became the player that people were talking about, the media was talking about. He's our best defender. He's been our best defender this season, right? Love what Toby Pink's done. Dawson's had a few games where you're like, wow, and he's developing. You don't shuffle everything around as much when you're trying to build consistency. And I don't know if he's playing hurt and maybe they're putting him down there to rest him a little bit more because the ball doesn't go down there. Now that's the opposite of why we put him down back in the first place. But the shoulder pads on him means there's something wrong. And then you've got Jeremy Cameron kicking 11. You've got Shannon Neal down there. You've got so much threat down in the forenoon with Geelong. You've taken your pillar. You've taken your best defender. You've taken the guy who loves this place, re-signed 200-centimetre key position player who's finding his feet as a defender, and you've taken him and just thrown him forward. It just doesn't make any sense to me. What did you think about the Chom Ford experiment over the last 2 weeks? Would you stick with it or would you bin that off completely?
So I actually didn't mind it against Sydney because I liked that we were trying something. I think insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the fact that we tried Chom forward, I didn't hate at all. And I know that last week the supply into the forward line was pretty dire. So seeing him start there again last night also didn't upset me. But that move should be made at quarter time.
Completely agree.
He had 8 intercept possessions. That was the most of any North defender on the night in a quarter and a half. And you just see like the way he builds in confidence on the back of playing there. He just looks so comfortable and so at home. So did I hate the fact that we did that? No. Would I do it again? No. I think he stays in defence now. I think we tried something. I think we needed to try something different. Happy to give him the benefit of the doubt and start him forward again last night, but make that move sooner because the longer you keep him there, the more it's going to impact his personal confidence. And then when he does go down back, he's just going to feel like shit. So yeah. I'm happy that we tried it. Like I said, no problem, but I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, I didn't hate that we tried it, but it's got to be reverted. Like you said, after a quarter, it cannot last until it doesn't matter anymore to throw the man back. We wonder why the defense is so bad. Well, you take your pillar out of there, you take your most consistent performer in the defense out for the whole season. No wonder it looks shaky. And look, it's the midfielder to their worst defenders than the defenders are. The defense did everything they probably could, but it's crazy. On the defense, Stephen Anthony says on Facebook here, why do we not just play man-on-man defense. Not sure what Clarkson has tried to implement, but defensively we were a better side with Reece Shaw. Interesting. Not sure the lads are learning anything by zoning off deep in the last quarter when we're 20 goals down. And Bright Niles, why does Clarko persist with the zone defense and not move the magnets around to adjust in a meaningful way? Which I think is so interesting. I think I've got just a couple here and we can discuss this whole point. Literally _Granto on Instagram. Stop playing 4 key defenders. But who do you drop? In my opinion, it's Logue, caught with the ball too much. And North Melbourne _vintage or North Melb _vintage on Instagram. When Cameron kicked his 5th goal out the back, why didn't we go man on man? So there's a few parts there. What are we doing with this zone defense? And do you think it's something to persist with? And why do you think when we can see it going so wrong, we don't seem to switch to a more man-on-man thing? Because there was especially one in the first quarter, I think it was Jeremy's third, where Logue was just like 10 meters away from him and the ball was sort of near the wing. And why aren't we playing man-on-man to the best forward in the game? Why aren't you sticking to him like glue? I don't understand. So, one, what's your opinion on the zone thing we're trying to do that gets us caught out all the time? Because that relies on no turnovers, which we are awful at. And 2, why don't we switch it to man-on-man again? Wouldn't that work more?
So, firstly, to address the personnel thing, pretty much all of our other defenders are injured. We don't have any available small to mid defenders. Like who comes, if you drop Logue, who do you play?
Yeah, I agree.
You actually
it's
don't
hard though
have
because
a choice.
4 key defenders is crazy though. Like I think that's the reason why we look so bad, but you're totally right. Like Bergman's obviously not there, Goda's not there, McDonald, Archer, all these guys.
Literally every single
anyone who can play
got,
smaller.
Goda's just come back through the VFL. Can't play. You probably can't play him yet, right? No Archer, no McDonald, no Bergman. If I'm clutching at straws here, you don't even have Darcy Tucker. No Aiden Core, who can play small if you need him to. No Eddie Ford. He's just coming back through the VFL today and he even played 3 weeks as a defender. They were trying to play Cooper Harvey as a defender. Obviously, that isn't a thing. He'll play forward when he comes back from illness. Like who are you playing in that role? The only person I'd be happy to give a shot to is Whitlock and play him in defence again because I think he looked okay against Sydney.
5 key defenders. That'll fix it.
Well, instead of Logue, right?
I know what you mean.
That's the one thing I just want to address. Like you literally don't have anyone to replace him with, right? The zone defence works when pressure is applied from up the ground. No one was asking why we were persisting with this zone defense in rounds 7, 8, 9, 10 because the defenders were getting support from higher up the ground. I understand reverting to a man-on-man structure and defense, but again, you step outside the box and you think about what we're trying to achieve long term and having a bit of consistency and continuity. That's a game plan thing too. It does work because we've seen it work. It worked when the defense upped the ground and the pressure was applied. So that would be my simple answer. Also, the midfield just don't really help the defenders at all. They turn the ball over in the middle of the ground and it doesn't really – like we win the clearance, it's turned over straight away and the ball's coming into our defensive 50 at lightning pace. So it doesn't actually give the defenders an opportunity. It's not to say that the defenders shouldn't be held accountable at all or shouldn't have to carry some responsibility for the way that the side looks as a whole. But that's probably – simply what my answer is to those questions.
So would you go man on man then? So why don't we switch it when that isn't working in the first quarter or half? Why don't we go to something? It doesn't have to be full on, but why do you not think we would switch it up like that? Do you think that man on man would reduce the scoring against us a bit?
I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but I just don't know. And again, we're not coaches, right? So it's just a thought. I just don't know if switching game plans every single week is going to do us any justice long term either. Like I think we need to get to a point, and this is what makes Geelong so brilliant. And obviously they've been very good for a very, very long time. but their on-field identity is so strong, right? And I'm talking about trying to keep a healthy list and continuity and consistency in the core group that take the park every single week, right? The next step above that is actually having such a strong on-field identity and blueprint that any player could step into that framework and be an instant superstar. Like, there's no surprise that players who have left Geelong in the past few years are not as good elsewhere as they were at Geelong. It's because of the environment they're playing in, right? So I think for us, if we're rebuilding and we're trying to build blocks here, if we're playing a zone defense 1 week or 1 quarter and then reverting to a man on man, that doesn't really fill the players with a lot of confidence, I don't think. And I think it creates confusion and it creates chaos. Am I saying, is this necessarily right? I don't know. I'm not the coach. It's just what I would be thinking about as a whole and what I think as an observer of the game on all facets would really help the side. So if we're talking about consistency and continuity in personnel, I would think a game plan is part of that. So I think we've got to figure out what our game plan is and stick to it and ingrain it so deeply in the players on field that they actually become really confident in what they're doing week in, week out. And it makes it easier to adjust and take the field every single week and know what they're doing and know what their role is. We just played into Geelong's game plan and we basically did what they wanted us to do all night. We've got to get to a point where we can actually be in control of our own actions and be so confident in what we're doing that no matter what tricks Geelong are trying to pull, whether it's play Jeremy Cameron on Colby McKercher or purposefully leaving Zach Banch free on that kick out of defence, knowing that someone's going to come over the top of him and take the mark.
That was so frustrating.
They did it on purpose because they knew exactly what they would do. They knew we'd go there every time, right?
That doesn't stop Griffin Logue going, where's Jeremy Cameron? And I'm not directing this at you at all, but like sometimes footy at its most basic, in its most basic form is I'm Griffin Logue, or it doesn't have to be Griffin Logue, but Griffin Logue was on Cameron for a lot of the night. Why don't you go and stand right next to him and you get your hand in his pocket and you stay there? I just don't understand it. How Jeremy Cameron is roving a pack off a ball up in the forward 50 and just runs through and takes a bounce is outrageous. Him doing an Ed Bailey Dale type run around from a mark 60 meters out and no one is there. And yeah, Colby was made. Like, I know they're playing him. That's not Colby's fault. It's Jeremy Cameron. We're not talking about, Eric Hipwood or someone like that. We're talking about Jeremy Cameron. This is not rocket science to know that man is probably a threat of kicking a few goals. So go and stand next to him. Take some initiative and be like, I'm going to go stand next to him because he's cooking us. 3 in the first quarter, to go stand next to him. Don't be like, oh, yeah, but the zone, so I'm going to stand 10 meters away, and when he gets the ball, I'll just close him down a bit. No, because he's going to do what he needs to do before that happens. It's just so boneheaded. Like, not everyone has to go man on man. I agree with it. The zone is the modern way. If you're playing man on man, you're probably not going to win anymore, which I don't like personally. I miss that old school type of footy, but it's gone. But someone's got to step up and be like, hey, that guy's pretty good. Probably stand next to him, because if he gets the ball and has 3 seconds with it, he's probably going to hurt you. So it just baffled me that we weren't able to just do more or show some more initiative defensively. And that's on a Parker, that's on a Caleb Daniel to be back there and be like, go and watch that guy, man. What are you doing? So anyway, there's another little rant by me. The _footy_locker_room on, there's too many underscores there, but anyway, on Instagram, should the club, higher ups in brackets, be transparent with fans and come out with a statement? Do you think the Sonia Hood-esque statement letter to the fans would do anything right now? Because I don't think it would at all. I just don't. That does nothing. They're aware how bad they are. Do you want to see that as a member and as a fan?
Not a letter, because I don't think that is probably enough. Clarko last night in his press conference said we know where we're at as a footy club.
He's been saying that for 2 years.
And I, in my review, roasted that statement because as a fan sitting here, what I see where we're at is Patrick Dangerfield eating a kebab on the interchange
Oh,
fence
yeah.
in the third quarter. Like it's a joke. That's actually what so I think, yes, I think something like that would help, but it's got to be face to face and it's got to be from the heart. Like I feel like at the moment fans are being kept at arm's length a little bit by saying that we
That's
know
Clarko's style, though.
yeah, but
And I
there's a
agree, it's
real
not good enough.
disconnect, I
We
think,
deserve
between
better, but
fans and the club at the moment.
yeah.
And I think I know that they're trying to protect the club from the media hysteria, but the media is actually the only thing at the moment from a fan perspective that we actually have any hope of getting any real answers from,
Yeah.
to be honest. And unfortunately, the media who are asking the right questions are either not doing it in the right way or being overshadowed by carry on that it's sort of leading to a bit of a closed door approach. And it's the fans who are missing out. And on a Saturday night at our home game, there was 25,000 people at the ground last night. Like that screams disconnect to me and a bit of disinterest. And I know I go every week, but I can't blame people for feeling that way. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think the club has to identify that the care factor and the heart is the one thing at the moment that's uniting everyone. And so they've got to find a way to actually appeal to the emotion of the fans and let us in, give us something. And I know you run the risk by doing that of being shat on by the media or shat on by opposition fans. I don't give a shit. I
No,
don't
I
give a
don't care
shit
about that.
what comes
They're going to
with
do that
that.
anyway.
Exactly. So at the very least, look your fans in the eye and give us something from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, look, to be honest, I didn't go last night, and I know I do the pods, and I represent North Melbourne in a very, very small way, just like you do, Marnie. And I just couldn't bring myself to go to it. To be honest, it was not a game I was interested in going to at all. And I love North, and we both put so much effort into doing stuff for them, not directly for them, but just in honor of this club every week for the fans. And I've been to so many games this year, and I knew what was happening last night, and I'm not going to get home at midnight after going and watching that. And I hate saying that. I feel gross with that being my thought pattern, but I also can't blame myself because it's almost just common sense at this point. And you know, I want to go. I want to feel awful if I miss a game. I want to be like, oh, well, I wish I could do that, but North's on this week, and we're going to go to that every single week because the football club does play such a massive role in my life and yours too, obviously. And I don't want to feel like that.
So sad.
I'll absolutely be there next week. I'll be cheering, and but I just watched from afar last night because I was scared of the inevitable. I think that knowing what we were gonna sort of do. So, look, I think to start to spin this back positively before we finish it up. Next week is the teller for me, and I need a response. And I'm 90%. We need a win. We need a win. And the only reason I say 90% is because I don't think we're going to be favourites. So in that case, I'm like, well, they are the better side and they probably should win. Saints fans will be licking their lips coming into this game. So we have to understand that too. But if the players and the club as a whole, everyone who's employed at that place has any genuine, not care, because that's way too harsh. You can clearly show the fans that you care by going in there and you go and beat the shit out of the Saints. You go in every single tackle and you try and lay them out. Every single handball you do, you keep running and you receive it back. You compete, and we can absolutely win next week if we do that. But you need to show us. Fans shouldn't be rocking up to that game thinking we're going to win. You need to go. The club needs to go out and show us, and you need to make us believe. And what you said before is true. Let us in a little bit. Stop blocking us out. I understand you want the media not involved, but if that's affecting your fan base's engagement and connection to the club, which it is, it is. So many people aren't going, like you said, Saturday night, 25,000 people, and including me. You don't have to do too much to get us to love you back. You know what I mean? Like it's not that hard, but just let us in a little bit. Be transparent with us. Be honest, and be pissed off, and show us you care too. Because Clarkson going up there, and I know his plan, and I get it to a degree, but it's almost gone past the point of that where Clarkson needs to look down the barrel at the fans and be like, "Back me in here. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to fix this, and don't try and skirt around the problem." So. Look, the last question I'm going to ask is Michaela Ferrito, big fan of the pod. Met Michaela a few weeks ago. What was a positive for the game? Genuinely can't find one at all, but I want you to come up with a positive as our last question for the pod. Marnie, please.
Despite the very little supply, the forward line is thriving.
When it gets in there, it does look dangerous. I agree with
Cam Zurhaar, I mean, that he, along with Toby Pink, has to be our most improved player this season. I mean, he's only been held goalless twice this season. And in both of those games, it was against Freo and it was last week against Sydney. Last week, he copped a knee to the cheek. And there was questions if he would even play. And he was battered from pillar to post against Fremantle. That man, even in patches last night, was like really just trying to start something. I think he's had an unbelievable season, and I refuse to buy into any commentary that suggests otherwise. I think he's been unreal. Paul Curtis, I don't think he's been quite the same since coming back from suspension, but he still looks so dangerous when he gets his hands on the footy. The way that Jack Darling presents at the footy, he's so strong and he's so smart.
Yeah, he protects that space so well with his body when the ball's coming in.
And when Larky comes back into that forward line, whether it is this season or not, it works. It absolutely works. So, yes, very limited supply into the forward line last night. A lot of the kicking just missed completely. But when we played to the advantage of our forwards, they've all had a very good year in their own way.
For sure. And look, the positive that I will bring, the Guernsey is awesome. It looks so good. It looks so good.
It is sick.
So, you know, we should wear that more. We should wear the bounding roo more. But we should wear them in games we can win because we don't do those Guernseys justice at all, being so beautiful. So, look, let's give a 3-2-1 for the game, Marnie. I don't even know who deserves 3 votes here. I don't know. Do you have a 3 in mind that you would throw out?
Yeah, I'd say Bull probably.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I wouldn't give it to Charlie Comben is he only played in defence for a quarter, which is not his fault. But yeah, I'd probably say 3 would be Bull if we're playing this game. 2 Chom, and I would go 1 either Curtis or Darling, depending on what you value more out of that game.
Okay. I don't disagree with Bull. Chom's a hard one because it was such a short period of the game. I'm just thinking any of the, just looking at some, I loved what Parker tried to do. And he got a lot of turnovers.
I also loved Bryn Teakle's game. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually thought he fought really hard. So you could throw him in there. But I think you have to give Chom the 2. The only reason why he didn't play a better game is because he wasn't in defence for long enough.
All right. If Zurhaar, Comben, and can I convince you on a Parker for 1? Just because I know it didn't come off all the time, but he was the only player in that midfield that was putting his head over it and diving on things for me.
I'm sure.
If you disagree with me, Marnie, please let me know.
No, I don't have a strong case for any players outside.
No, I'm also the same.
And Charlie Comben.
I don't have Zurhaar 3.
Yeah.
Comben 2. And I'll give Parker 1 for his efforts despite the turnovers, I think, because yeah, all right. Well, that was gross. I'm not even going to bother with golden helmet moment of the game, Marnie, because I don't think there really is anything. Can you think of anything really quickly before we finish up that is worthy of A moment of the game. When do we hit the lead? The 10-minute mark of the first? Is that the moment of the game?
It's so sad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think
I don't really have.
that's it. Zerha's goal to put us up for the only time in the entire game. That's the moment of the game.
Moment of the game is Patrick Dangerfield eating a kebab.
Eating a kebab. Yeah, Jeremy Cameron taking a bounce after roving a tap like a prime Chris Judge taking the
Outrageous.
piss.
It's bloody outrageous.
Gross. I hate Geelong. Gross. Anyway, thank you for jumping on, Marnie. Thank you if you've listened all the way through this one. You're a true OG and a true fan. If you listened all the way through and you're on YouTube, please comment below, I made it. Because I'll everyone who comments I made it at the end, I will reply to you with a positive statement because you are genuinely worthy of that. Please subscribe. Please put your comments below on everything we've been talking about. Keep it respectful down there. We know it's a hard time, but let's be constructive and let's get to the Saints game next week. Hopefully Larkey, Wardlaw, Cooper Harvey are back, and that will make us a lot more excited. And if we do beat the Saints and if we can get over the Tigers, I still think the year has been a big plus, even though we've had our low points. So thank you, Marnie, for jumping on again. We'll, of course, see you again here, and I'll see you next week at the Saints, and we can make sure that our mental healths are okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody. And, thanks for sticking with us. It's a tough time for the club, but, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for everyone listening at home. So thank you so much.
Very, very true. We'll catch you guys on the Saints preview.